Hello, I'm Odin Bogstrotter, peruser of Supermarket Flyers. This is Board Deck and Dice, and today we are looking at Dale of Merchants from Snowdale Design. Dale of Merchants is another deck building game, and regulars of the channel will know that I like a good deck building game. And this one is for 2 to 4 players. It works well at 2 and 3. 4 goes on a bit longer obviously, but it still has that kind of quick element once you get into the winning strategy, as it were, which I will explain now. In Dale of Merchants you have 6 different decks. Each deck represents an animal that plays slightly differently. So we have the thieving northern raccoons, offensive, being as I'm now living in the north, the snappy scarlet macaws, the hoarding squirrels, the lucky ocelots, the dealing pandas, and the adapting chameleons. The thieving northern raccoons let you mess with other players' hands, the snappy macaws let you mess with your hand, the squirrels are quick to set up your stalls, which I'll come to. The lucky ocelots add a dice and some randomness and chaos to the affairs. The pandas are good at making deals with the marketplace where you will buy your cards from, and the chameleons can copy other cards' abilities. You will choose an amount of sets for how many players there are +1, which means the most sets of animals you're going to have in a game is 5 in a 4-player game. So there's always one left over, there's always a way the game can be changed and mixed up. Coming out later this year, that has been successfully kickstarted, is Dale of Merchants 2, which is bringing 6, I think even 7 on these stretch goals, more animal decks, so you'll have quite a lot of replayability there with the way that the animals act differently. To start with, you'll be given a hand of junk and an animal worth 1 point for each animal set you have in play. The market will be set up. Let me just set it up randomly here for you. Good to be prepared. Something like this. And you will have your go. On your go you have a few options. If you're unhappy with your starting hand of 5 cards, you can discard for your go and draw back up 5 more. You can use the number on the top left of your cards as buying power to buy any from the market, and the market is one of those where the thing on the right is generally cheaper. So this is 3. This one is 2 plus whatever on the top, so you add the number on the top to the number on the left hand corner, and when you buy one it removes, and at the end of your go everything moves down and a new card comes out. So the cards become cheaper as they move down, but these ones, depending on the values, might be a little bit different. There might be a cheaper one up here because it might be a 2 and a 5 there, for example. You can use a card's ability. So the cards have 2 types of ability. Passive, which can activate when it says, including in your hand, so you don't need to play that card to get its ability. That is often important with the chameleons, where this card can be a copy of any card in the rightmost stack of your stall. So you need that before you play it, so you can play that power from your hand. If you play your technique, you discard the card in your discard pile and you play the technique that's mentioned on the card. If there is also a plus sign on the card, you get another go to do something. The last thing you can do on your go is to start to make your stall. To win the game, you must have a stall in front of you going from the numbers 1 to 8 by adding these up. So I could start stall with a snappy macaw here, that would be my 1 stall out. For the next one I need a 2, and it must be in the same colour, so I can either get a card that has 2 on it, like the prepaid good, or I can do a combined number of the same colour. So these 3 squirrels would make my number 3. When someone gets to their number 8, they win the game, the first person to get their number 8 out, which is obviously easier than it sounds because you must get the right mix of cards. So as well as looking for powers, you're looking at those numbers on the top left, trying to remember what numbers you have in what colour in your deck to race out in front and get to that your market's stalls down in front of you. The squirrels are handy, they let you use junk cards in your market. Some of the other cards let you mess around with people's markets, swap them in and out. Once a stall has been made, it remains that number. So even if someone stole this 1 and changed it for 5, that would still count as my 3. And that's about it for the gameplay. The other abilities and how to take that the game is really depends on which sets of animals you play with. Obviously the thieving raccoons are quite take that. The ocelots can be, you can end up swapping your entire hand with somebody else. It's a very clever game. The rules are really clear. It is a bit counterintuitive in places if you're used to playing deck builders, because when you buy a card from the market, it doesn't go in your discard pile. It goes straight into your hand. And when you throw away a card, if it's an animal card, it goes to the market discard pile, so it will come back into circulation through the market. And if it's a junk, it will go into a junk discard pile that's still there in case any of the powers activate it. So the instructions are clear. There's a low intimidation factor when you open it up. In fact, it's probably more intimidating than it looks, because the artwork is so good and it's all animals and cutesy. And it hides the depth of game that is here. And I have to say, this has gone up into my top 3 deck builders, which will probably be this, Xenon Profiteer, and Paperback, with Star Realms probably propping those 3 up at the top there. Because there's enough difference in it, with trying to get the stalls out, with having the plus sign so you can combo moves if you're clever, with having to look, yes, I want that power and I don't want someone else to get it, but I also need the red number 4 because I've already got red number 4 and I can get my 8 out if I get that. And working out whether it's better to keep hold of some cards, because once you've played them into your stall, you haven't got that power to use anymore. So for example, the prepaid good lets you choose any card from the market without paying a cost and take it into your hand. But once it's a 2, so it's quite handy to play it as your second stall or your third or fourth stall, but then you can't use that power anymore, and there's only a limited amount of those number 2s out. It works well with 2 to 3 and 4 players, although obviously it's going to get longer with the 4 players. But once people start getting their market stalls out, once people realise that's the way to win, the game speeds up tremendously as the game changes from trying to collect the best powers you can to try and collect cards that work well with each other to get your stalls out. And I found last time through I was cycling my cards very quickly. I didn't have a big deck of cards like I might in Star Realms, a big deck of reds and blues to work together. I was trying to cycle them quickly to get the next market stall out and keep one eye on the stall after that. So I was keeping the 5 to get the 7 out when I was working on the 6 stall, if you see what I mean. Very good game, very good fun. Yeah, a recommendation from me here at Board Deck and Dice. I've been Odin Bogstrotter, peruser of Supermarket Flyers, and I recommend that you get your hands on Dale of Merchants or the sequel as soon as you can.